I had done Salem's Lot, the miniseries based on a King book. While I was an executive at Warner Brothers, I had produced the miniseries, and it was quite successful. Steve King liked it, and we began to talk during the making of that miniseries. He said, I'd like to send you some of my new manuscripts as they come out, and maybe if you're interested, you can do something with it. I mean, at that time, that was an amazing kind of offer. There was no John Grisham, no Tom Clancy, none. I mean, he had no competition. He was #1, and all his books were being snapped up. So I said, of course. And the first book he sent me was Cujo, and I really didn't go for it. I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't know what could be done with it. But the next one was Christine, and that was a manuscript, 600 or 700 typewritten pages. And Christine I really liked, in that it sort of celebrated America's obsession with the motor car. And I said, okay. And I remember I had talked to John, and I called him up from my office at Warner's. I said, I just bought a book.
Richard approached me and said he had the rights. He wanted to do this new book by Stephen King called Christine. And I read it. And at the time, I had just made a film called The Thing, which had not done particularly well at the box office in the United States. And I had received a lot of criticism for being too violent and ooky and grotesque and so forth. So I was looking around for work, and I read this, and it's a haunted car story, but with really interesting characters. So I said, why not? I need a job, why not?
I then had lunch with the executive vice president of Columbia Features. He said, you know Stephen King? I said, yes. And he said, there's a brand new manuscript out of his. It's called Christine. Do you know who's bought it? And I said, yeah, me. I think I was going to die at the dinner table, And it became very easy. Bill Phillips was hired to do the screenplay. This was probably September, October of '82.
I had worked with John Carpenter twice before. The first thing I did for him was called Sea Story, never got made. The second one was Firestarter. And the only reason that didn't get made was budgetary reasons at Universal. But John called me right after that fell through and said, Stephen King has another book coming out called Christine. It's about a killer car. I thought he was kidding. He said, just read it. If you don't like it, fine. If you like it, let me know. So I read it. I got halfway through it, and I called him up. I said, this is really good.
In February of '83, we turned the script in, and 3 days later, Frank Price, who was then the president of Columbia, said, you guys got a green light, go make it. And we started in April of that year. And we were shooting that picture while it was the #1 bestseller in the country. Very rare that happens. And when we came out that next December, the book, the hardcover, was still like #10 or #11, and the soft cover was #1. Again, both books appearing on New York Times bestseller list. Pretty amazing.
A book is usually about a 20-hour experience. A movie is usually about a 2-hour experience. Something's got to give. Something's got to be cut out. And so when you're given the job of adapting, the first thing you look for is, what can I get rid of?
In the original book, the car is owned by Roland LeBay. In the picture, the car has now been inherited by his brother, George LeBay, because Roland LeBay is dead and his family is dead as a result of owning that car. And in the book, Roland LeBay is sort of inexorably linked to the car, and whenever Arnie is driving the car, it's the evil, decayed body in the back seat sort of talking to the boy and spurring him on.
A year before Christine was made, there was a film, quite a good film, called American Werewolf in London, in which Griffin Dunne becomes a slowly and progressively more rotting corpse. It seemed to me when I read Christine that one of the ways we could cut out a huge segment of the book was to get rid of that, because there'd be nothing new. So I phoned John Carpenter and said, what do you think about this? He totally agreed.
We decided to focus everything on the car. The car itself was born evil. It made everything a lot simpler so that the car could be the focus rather than this mysterious owner, etc., which meant some changes. It definitely meant some changes.
The car was the star, okay? It was a '57 Plymouth Fury. The reason it was, which King told me later, is it's the only car of that generation that was never celebrated in literature or in legend, unlike the Corvette, the Chevy Bel Air, and the Thunderbird of '57. So he chose it because no one really knew about it.
We had the model, the make and the model of the Plymouth. There it was. And we just had to find some and make sure they were absolutely beautifully restored. I mean, just look gorgeous. So that required a little work.
We went around trying to find these cars and then reassembling them, and we were able to get 24 cars and cannibalize parts from each one, that we could have 17 functioning cars that did different things, and we destroyed all but 2 of them during the course of the film. Columbia would have preferred larger cast names, and it was a negative pickup, so we had all the controls on our side. All they could do was approve the script. And we wanted to go with young people and virtual unknowns because there was no one in that age group that would mean anything box office-wise. They would have liked a Brooke Shields because she had just come off Blue Lagoon. They also liked Scott Baio because he was coming off a television series, you know, and we'd never met with those people. We just said politely no and went on about our business. Always with the thought that the car was the star.
That's a piece of shit, Arnie.
Well, she could be fixed up. She could.
Yeah.
Well, she could be really tough.
We'd looked at a lot of actors in California and found nobody. I went to New York first alone with our casting director, and we must have read 200 girls and boys, okay? And you knew right away that they were wrong or not right. Two people came in. One was Kevin Bacon, who we wanted right away, and he agreed to do it, liked it, and then got offered Footloose. And then wrote me a note apologizing, you know, and I think he was absolutely right. It was good for his career. So we went back to New York and I started reading, and early on I read Keith Gordon.
I cast Keith out of New York. I remember reading him and really being impressed with his take on the character. He had done some work before. I had seen him. I knew who he was.
I was living in New York. I was working mostly in theater, going back and forth between theater and film. Had done Dressed to Kill and home movies and some other films, but I hadn't done a film in a little while. I was doing a play, but Carpenter came to New York and my agents got me an audition, and it was a great role. I remember reading the script and thinking, oh, this is an amazing part because it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And how often do you get to do that, especially for a young actor, you know, parts that have that kind of range. And I was always a character actor. Even at a young age, I was interested in character and in not being just like myself. So I went in to audition for John. And he was really fun in the audition, and I think that we got off to a good start because I like to play, I like to try stuff, and I sort of brought in little costume elements, and I would change my hair between reading the different scenes, and he seemed to really get into that. So I thought we had hit it off well, and I got the part, and I was thrilled.
Now that we're gonna be seniors, I figured it's about time that we got you laid. You know, like this year, huh? Huh?
I need a girl to get laid.
Well, what about Gail Justin, huh?
Oh, Gail, just in
Yeah.
case? No, I don't like her mustache.
Fuck you, Arnie. I mean, what do you care if you get a little hair in your mouth, huh?
John Stockwell I read out here, and he did a real good job in the reading, and I figured he's a great contrast. And these two unlikely friends, which now in retrospect seems a little unlikely, but still, those were the two that you follow through with.
Christine, for me, was a major break. I had just gotten out of college, and I was actually cast in Christine before Keith Gordon was. And I was not at all like the Dennis character. I was not a jock in school. I mean, I went to a boarding school, St. Paul's. I didn't know anything about cars. I grew up in Manhattan. So most of the character and even the world of the film was foreign to me, but that's what made it exciting.
You think maybe you might want to go out dancing with me? Like, I don't know, maybe this Friday night after the game?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Why not?
I have a date.
Well, I read Alexandra, among other actresses that wanted to do the part. She had done a couple things before, but nothing as big as this. And Richard Kobritz said to me, you know, I think she really has something. She wasn't a perfectly trained actress at the time. She was very young, so she didn't have everything in her command, but she had a quality that was really wonderful. And I just went with her. And she was great, just great.
I was 19 when I first auditioned for Christine. I knew of Stephen King and John Carpenter, but I hadn't read any of Stephen's books or seen any of John's movies because scary stuff is like not my thing. But when I did get cast, I did read the book and really liked it. I think the book really went into character development, and the film couldn't do that. But I like to do a lot of research as an actor, so it was helpful to me because I was able to expound on what maybe wasn't in the script but was in the book, just in my head as an actor. But it was a girl that wasn't too far from me, so as a beginning actress, I was not terrified. Although I have to say that when I actually saw my performance at the screening, I was horrified. Just had to run out because I couldn't deal with seeing myself on the big screen.
At the time, there were a lot of really good people who loved playing character parts.
She'll start. You need these.
Roberts Blossom, I had seen him in Escape from Alcatraz. When he came in to read for me, I thought he was really, really good. This guy's brilliant. And Christine Belford was terrific as the mother.
You are not keeping any car at this house.
Fine. I'm Rudolph Junkins, state police detective.
Now, Harry Dean, I knew. I called him up, asked him to play the detective. And Harry always loves to play non-villain roles. You know, he was cast as a villain so many times in his career that he always enjoys playing something different.
This place is for working stiffs. Got to keep their cars running so they can keep bread on the table. It's not for rich-ass, snot-nosed kids who want to go dragging on the orange belt. I don't allow no smoking in here, neither.
Robert Prosky, again, Red, was a fabulous character actor. I was just really lucky. I had some just terrific actors. I mean, I didn't have to do much. This was one of my easiest jobs as director.
Show me.